Hey guys, Corey here. Welcome to Blue Talks, and I hope you enjoy this video.
Okay, so unlocking your hidden potential. Aristotle said what you can do with things increases infinitely if you'll focus on their potential. I like to say what an individual can do increases infinitely if they focus on their potential. Okay, what's the potential of an apple seed? Hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of apples. What's the potential of an individual? They have the potential of impacting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. How do we do it? I built a pyramid of potential, and the foundation is purpose. Once we understand our purpose of who we are, what we do, and what we're here for, now we've got some boundaries to build on. And in order, the next key is to become the person necessary to fulfill that purpose. We do that with a mindset that focuses on the things that draws us towards that purpose and eliminates the things that distract us. And of course, if we're going to impact thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, we need people skills. And if we can maximize our people skills, it will automatically move us into leadership where we can make decisions and where we can then learn to balance the entire process so that we can maximize our potential. So let's get started. First thing is we want to discover our purpose. We want to design a life around purpose, not pleasure, around people, not position, not power, not possessions. The idea here is the purpose sets your boundaries. It gives you the direction and it keeps you focused on the things that you need to, okay? Now, one of the key factors, key concepts of being able to maximize your potential is when you come to realize it's not about you, okay? The key here is that every single principle that you can think of dealing with life or business hinges on understanding this concept, all right? In other words, we exist for others, okay? Nature's a great teacher, right? Trees don't eat their own fruit. Rivers don't drink their own water. The sun doesn't give off heat for itself. Flowers don't create a fragrance for themselves. But they take all that they have and all that they are and all of their resources in order to be able to build something for the benefit of others. And therein lies not only the secret to life, but the secret to unlocking your potential. You see, all your talents, skills, gifts, and abilities, they're not for you. These are tools that we have in order to be able to maximize our impact for our generation. That's the key. The goal is not success. The goal is significance, influencing others to the point of impact. And when we do that, things start to happen. Next, we need to become that person to fulfill that purpose. How do we do that? Okay. First of all, it's not just positive thinking or negative thinking, but it's right thinking. See, that's what we want to be able to do. And so we want to think about the things that need to change. When I first heard this from Jim Rohn, it was 1982 seminar. Jim Rohn, great speaker, and he says, for things to change, you got to change. I wrote it down. Well, I'm taking that one home, right? I get home that night, I studied my notes, okay? Now, keep that in mind. It's not just taking the notes, but it's studying the notes. And so I'm looking at this and he says, why is it for things to change, I got to change? And then I started thinking, I said, well, gosh, things don't change. People do. I mean, do we have corruption, wealth, poverty, hunger today? Did we have it 100 years ago? 1,000 years ago? 2,000 years ago? Things don't change. The key here is that we've got to, make the changes for myself. And anytime we're going to make any kind of change, guess what it involves? Problems, right? I mean, think of any time you've had any kind of growth in your life whatsoever, you only grew because you overcame a problem that was preventing the growth. See? And so one of the things to grasp a hold of is to realize that problems aren't the problem. It's the response to the problem that's the problem. Anyone identify with that one? Right? Mark Hughes, founder of Herbalife, ninth grade dropout, created what is now an $8 billion company in 95 countries, right? Started the company because of a tragedy in his life. His mother had died when he was 18 years old from from taking diet-related drugs, trying to lose 30 pounds. Now, he could have been a victim. He could have become bitter, but he chose to become better. See? He chose to become better. And he said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to use this as a launching pad to create my entire future. And that's when he got started. Now, people don't become better. They get stuck in the past. They get stuck thinking about all these things that happened to them. The why me? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? And so let me just say, we don't want to become a prisoner of the past. Okay? Listen, you can't change the past, but you can learn from it. And that's the key. It's the lessons. See? Every problem is a lesson. And so, there was a Bishop Dale Bonner, who was just an eloquent orator and master wordsmith. And absolutely amazing guy. He's sitting at his desk and he's doing his studying, and he's got his granddaughter right here on the floor coloring. And she breaks one of the crayons and she bursts out into tears, crying uncontrollably, sobbing and everything. And he tries to use his master wisdom and understanding to soothe her, to no avail. And then he reached down and he grabbed the crayon and he said, "Look, darling, broken crayons still color. Broken crayons still color." Listen, I don't know what you may have been through, what kind of a tragedy or abuse or addiction or things that have affected your life. And we get into this thinking, we become a prisoner of the past thinking, who am I? I'm no good. I'm not good for anything. I can't do it. I don't know enough. I'm not good enough. Wrong. Broken crayons still color. You're extremely valuable. That's a part of that. And in order to be able to do that, to develop that things, we need a mindset. And there's just few mindsets that will really lock us in. And the key is because your thoughts control your mind. But you control your thoughts. We get to choose. See, the thoughts come from the things we see, the things we read, the things we hear, and the things we experience. And we get to choose the things we see, the things we read, the things we hear, and we can choose experiences. See, that's the beauty of it. And so that's where we can make that difference. Now, sometimes there's things we can't choose. We can't choose circumstances. We can't choose a lot of the things that are uncontrollable around us. And so one of the major mindsets to help us maximize and unlock that door of our potential is we've got to create a mindset that tells us that things happen for me, not to me. Okay? Good friend of mine, Larry Shine. He was a minor shareholder in a real estate company, went broke, and went bankrupt. And he sold his home to pay off his portion of the debt. The bank guaranteed the entire proceeds of the home in order to pay off not only his debt, but the debt of the major shareholders as well. He was broke. He had to move in with the in-laws. And after 7 months of no work, then, the depths of depression were welling up in him until he came across a startup company that netted him $75,000 profit in the first 90 days. And I was talking with Larry about that one day, and he said, Denny, he said, when that happened, it was absolutely the worst experience ever. But when I look at it now, I realize it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. I wouldn't have what I have or be where I am had that not happened. Now, the issue with this one, and the way to help you with this, is just to realize you never realize this when it's happening. It always comes from 20/20 hindsight. See, that's when we recognize. But just know that it's always there. It's always there. Now, I've discovered there's like 4 levels of thinking, not many levels of thinking, but I just want to share these 4 levels of thinking. One level of thinking, it's the most immature way to think. And it's the level that says, everybody's like me. And if not, they should be when they grow up. Now, I mean, do you ever get frustrated with people and say, well, what is the matter with them? How could they think that way? How could they do that? Why would they do that? You know, and you know what we're really saying? I would never do that, so they should never do that. They should be like me. But that's very immature. See, and then pretty soon we come to the point where we realize, okay, well, come to think of it, maybe everybody isn't like me. And then you know what we realize? Nobody's like me. And you know, and that's scientifically proven. I mean, DNA tells us 8 billion people have 8 billion different structures that have created who they are and what they do. And I mean, and it's just amazing. I mean, we have fingerprints, eye prints, voice prints. Do you know that we have distinct, unique heartbeats? 8 billion different heartbeats. So what does that tell us? It tells us we see things different, we express things different, we feel things different, and we have different passions. See, this is why each of us need all of us, and all of us need each of us. See, and then the last level of thinking is, it's okay to be me. I mean, think about it. If you're not going to be you, who's going to be you? I mean, you know, you are the only one who has what you have, has experienced what you have, who's seen, read, heard, and experienced the things that you have. And when it comes to completing the picture, completing the puzzle, you are the last, you may be the last piece of the puzzle that makes the picture complete. So what you need to do is you need to maximize you so that you can complete the picture and make your contribution to your generation. Now, in order to do this, if we're going to affect so many people, we need to develop certain people skills, okay? And these people skills, one of the key things that I learned on developing people skills is to be more interested than interesting, okay? Why? Because if, you know, especially in a new environment or with new people, you know, I'm thinking, okay, man, you know, I've got to be interesting. And so what are we thinking about? Me. You know, how's my hair? You know, do my clothes look good? Am I saying the right thing? Am I saying it the right way? Am I going to do the right thing? Am I going to be at the right place? And so we think about that. But what happens if you're focused on being interested in others? Now, see, because remember, it's not about you, it's about them. And so when you focus on others, you know, and it's absolutely fascinating. You focus on others and you have your little conversation, and you know what happens? You walk away and they say, that's the most interesting person. You see? And so we want to be interested. Now, how do we do that? We do that by asking open-ended questions. And let me just challenge you. If you haven't started already, start collecting open-ended questions that help you in your people skills and communication. I've been collecting questions for 27 years. You know, and I've learned that I never ask somebody where they're from. Where are you from? Chicago. Oh, okay. Conversation, not open-ended. So instead I say, hey, so what brought you here to Los Angeles? I mean, how did you end up here in LA? You see, what that does, that opens up a whole story. They get to share a story. People love sharing stories, especially if it's theirs, right? And another thing I learned to say is, you know, I never ask somebody, what do you do for a living? You know, I said, well, you know, instead I ask, you know, what do you live to do? You see, because listen, some people, they don't want to talk about what they do for a living, you know, but they love to talk about what they're passionate about. See, that's so valuable. And, you know, and then when especially when you come across with people dealing with so many issues today where they're grieving and going through some kind of a tragedy, you never ask them how they are. You always ask, hey, how you holding up? See, whole different approach, whole different effect. See, so I mean, it's very, very powerful. Now, one of the things that I'd like to do to be able to try to encourage people, and listen, this is just a simple little concept that has made a radical difference, and you can start using it immediately, right? And that's change all shoulds to could. See, you can say, you should do this, you should do that, you should go there, you should go there, you know, you should be this or you should be that, you know, and what kind of a response does that evoke? Oh yeah? Why should I? Who are you to tell me? Who gives you authority over to tell me what to do or not to do, right? And so the wall goes up. But if you say, hey, you know, you could do this, you could do that, you could go there, you could go here, You know, hey, you could be this, you could be that. Really? You really think I could? You believe in me? You know, wow, how? See, one builds a wall, the other opens the door. And so these are just some simple little things. Of course, there's so many, but these are some things that can help build a skill. So next, you know, we look here at leadership. Now, leadership isn't nearly as complicated as we think, okay? You know, when you develop those skills, you'll move into leadership, and it's not a position, but it's a process of performance, okay? And the idea is because in reality, leadership is simply knowing what to do next, why it's important, and then how to take the current resources available to solve the issues at hand. You know, there was a charter jet that's going to a huge conference down in Brazil. The charter jet's filled with C-suite executives, board members, and at the last minute, there's the chief of a native tribe right outside of the city where this conference is going on, in the jungles out there. And he's invited on as a request of one of the executives. So the plane takes off, and just before it's landing, it ends up crashing in the middle of the jungle. And fortunately, everybody survives. But now, they're in the middle of the jungle, 100 miles from nowhere. Who knows what to do next? Who knows why it's important? Who can take the resources in the jungle to solve the problems at hand? Who's the leader on the C-suite executive jet? The chief. See? And even to simplify it a little bit more, and listen, we all deal with problems. We hear about it every day, all day long, right? And we think there's so many problems. Let me help you just simplify it a little bit. Of all the things that are going on, there are only two problems. Only two problems in the entire world. A knowing problem and a doing problem. Now, fortunately, today we have the internet and the AI, so the knowing part's not too hard anymore. But that doing part, we need that commitment to do what we know. And so as we do that, as we take action, it's never going to happen without action. You've got to take action. You think you make mistakes, you don't make mistakes, you create lessons. That's how it works. And one of the key things as a leader is you've got to be able to keep everything in the process all in balance. And it's not just having a balanced life, but it's being a balanced person. See, that's the thing. How do we be a balanced person? We want to balance the three essences of our life: our spirit, our soul, and our body. Now, the spirit takes universal truths, you know, and reveals to us the things that are right and wrong. Some people call it the conscience, you know, let your conscience be your guide, Jiminy Cricket, you know. So, but it's that idea, it reveals this to us. And then the soul, the mind, the will, and the emotions, you know, the mind takes that information and then makes the decision as to what needs to be done, and then it's carried out by an act of the will, right? A commitment. And then the emotions get to enjoy the fruit of the decision. Good decision, good fruit. Bad decision, bad fruit. You know, we get to choose that way, all right? And how do we do this? Okay, we need to keep these in balance. Now, if you were to able to maximize your physical world, okay, I mean, your health, your fitness, you're fit as can be, no health issues. I mean, you're Mr. Universe, Miss World. I mean, it's unbelievable. 100%. Nothing can be improved in your health and your physical world. 100% in your mental world. You know, I mean, you've got it all. You make Einstein look like a moron. You've maxed your capacity, your mental capacity. Anything you need to know, you know. You've got it all right there. But if you neglect your spiritual world, think about it. You only have a maximum of 66% potential. But let me ask you this. How many have got 100% on their physical world? How many have 100% in their mental world? I mean, listen, if I got to 50%, I'd be jumping for joy. And if you're at 50% in each of those and neglect the spiritual world, you're only working at 33% potential. So if you want to maximize your potential, you want to be able to maximize all three. And I say, you know, put the priority on the spiritual world to give us the right decisions, and then the mental world so that we can take action on those decisions, and then the physical world. Listen, our body is just the vehicle that carries out the decisions. You know, listen, I've been in the health industry for 45 years, and when you look at that, you know, it's amazing. I used to tell people, I said, listen, you better take care of your body. You only got one, okay? There's no replacements, you know. and no refunds, okay? You got one body, so you want to take care of it. It's the only one you got, okay? But if you destroy your body by the time you're 50 and you're going to live to be 75, you got 25 years of misery coming up. So I just suggest you maximize all the different areas of your life. Now, if you want to be able to, just to review here, you look at your purpose. Okay, build your purpose, have a solid purpose, and then become the person necessary to fulfill that purpose. Set your mind on the things that's going to move you in that direction and eliminate the distractions. Okay, develop the people skills that will enable you to utilize those things, right? And you will move into leadership, okay? And then you can make the decision to keep everything in balance and become a balanced person. And if you'll do this, you can maximize your potential. Now, if you have any questions or want to know any more in-depth details, you can always go to maximizeyou.com, and I'd be delighted to take the time and show you the specifics on each one of those areas. Thank you very much.